Live. Okay. Good. All right. Sorry, everybody. We're having technical difficulties. I don't know why, but we'll try to get through the entire special. Oh, we're live now. Good. Rosa sees it on her thing. If you can. All right. So welcome to Dr. D's Discussions. Nice little Christmas special. We're going to restart just to catch everybody back up. So basically, what we're going to do is we're going to give you a rundown of our Christmas and Hanukkah celebrations, how we celebrate them, and then we're going to go into a little bit of detail about the Christmas holiday and the history. We'll give that first, then do our personal stuff at the end, tell you about Jesus and in particular how he's not the only virgin birth God in the history of the world. We'll also give you a little bit of a rundown about why Christmas trees are a pagan tradition and what it says in the Bible. We'll also give you a little bit of economics and tell you why I truly believe that the Christmas holiday shouldn't just be about all the lovey-doveyness and the gift-giving and everything else. Well, the gift-giving because it's economics, but...
And also go a little bit into my tradition. So I'm a Russian Jew, and also what we do in terms of celebrating the Russian heritage and culture, as well as just, what Hanukkah is and, the 8 days of light.
Yeah, love the 8 days of light and the Maccabees. So we'll get into a little bit of story like that. So basically give you a little rundown of what Christmas is. Christmas started out in Christian cult, basically, in the Roman Empire, celebration of Jesus to a certain extent. However, it was considered a other holiday, Saturnia, the worship of the Saturn god, in Roman mythology. And in the north, the Germanic tribes celebrated something called Yuletide. And they would build a big fire, and they would dance around it and get raucous and drink and be merry. So it all started as like kind of a blend of these different holidays. And in the early 5th, 6th century, when Christianity spread northward from the fall of the Roman Empire into what's now Europe, they pretty much kind of blended the cultures together, where they had this raucous Yuletide tradition where they would just drink and gamble and, and party around evergreen trees to kind of like ward off, seasonal depression, so to speak. You get that little bit of the green.
Yeah, little highs, little lows, and you even it out.
Yeah, exactly. And pretty much why they came to like a little bit of a compromise. Christianity was sweeping through, taking over all the other religions, and they kind of went, we'll let you still have the party time, but it's now about Jesus' birth. And this can actually continue, the raucous type of party style and drinking and being merry and all that fun stuff, all the way up until actually the Puritans went from England to the United States, and they kind of basically banned Christmas in a manner of speaking. And it actually didn't come back into favor with the population until actually immigrants, people that we used to cast down, the Irish, the English, the Irish, the Italians, and a lot of Eastern Europeans come over, and they still celebrated the raucous style of Christmas. And it kind of bled into the greater or the bigger culture, so it became popular culture in a manner of speaking. And that's kind of where we're at, where it kind of just evolved into the materialistic economic stimulus package every year that it is. And, just a couple things about that. I think that's very interesting. In terms of the economics of Christmas, during the 2014 holiday season, retail sales in the United States were forecast to be a total of $616 billion, up from 2013 $602 billion. And the average U.S. holiday shopper in that year was supposed to spend $800, a little bit over $800. And which is 73% in gifts. And then this year, projected, this is from Forbes, that the retail sales in November and December are expected to increase by 3.6%, reaching $655.8 billion, up from $626 billion in 2015, according to the National Retail Federation. And that's actually a pretty reputable source. You can actually check out Forbes. They did a nice little blog, and they have a nice little chart. And, they really go into a lot of detail about it. And, what they say is, and this is Forbes, so don't cut my head off when I say this next sentence or two. Several U.S. macroeconomic changes will impact holiday retail shopping this season, including the lower unemployment rate, decreased gas prices, and a positive housing market. These segments have improved from last year's data and will in turn create a stronger holiday shopping season this year. So, as much as people like to deny it and say, oh, woe is me, woe is me, woe is me, and that's pretty much what this entire goddamn year's election was about, the economy's doing a lot better. And, thanks, Mr. Obama, and thanks, to the package, the bailouts and the bailout of the auto industry so many years ago. And I think it's actually turning around. The unemployment's down. And I know that a higher percentage of people aren't looking for work. And I know the other downsides to the economy. However, consumer confidence is at a 10-year high. The Dow is about to hit 20,000 points, which has never been seen in the entire history of the system. I don't even know how far back that goes. I think it's actually beyond the Great Depression, to be honest with you.
Beats me, I have no idea.
Yeah. So, I always like to bring this up because I think everybody nowadays has such a negative attitude, and, I know that a lot of lies get peddled in terms of, there's unsafest since blah, blah, blah. The crime rate's down at a 50-year low, and people think we're at a 40-year high in crime. So it's a matter of perspective, a matter of perception. And I really think that has to deal with a bunch of the fake news and, all these certain websites that promote their own agenda without actually doing the fact checking. And then people perpetuate that idea or thought process throughout the entire economy. So, it's kind of like Reefer Madness, that movie way back in the 30s when, oh no, the devil's lettuce. Oh, you got to beware of the devil's lettuce. You know what? And, it comes down to that. I really think that if we do some fact checking and really, hold these fake stories back, then we'll get a clearer picture. And I think for America, it's a very Merry Christmas. So, Rosa, tell us a little bit about Hanukkah, and we'll go back into the Jesus story. I know I'm throwing you on the spot.
No, it's fine. So, for Hanukkah, basically, like the quick version or backstory is in 2nd century BCE. The Maccabees were battling the Syrians, and there was the head leader, which was Antiochus. Antiochus Epiphanes. Okay, at least I got his last name correct.
I don't. That's a crazy name. Some of these people back then just had the craziest of names.
The craziest name deserves a drink. I agree.
Here's cheers.
So he sent his soldiers to battle the Jews in Jerusalem at one of their prime temples, and basically it was because the Jews did not want to worship gods like Zeus and Hera and the Greek gods. They believed in their own one god, and they didn't want.
So why were this? So I know I just want to fill in a little gap here for you. The Syrians were actually a subdivision. Alexander the Great had come in and swept through the entire area, conquered Macedonia, Greece, the Middle East pretty much, all the way through Persia, and almost into India, where he actually got mortally wounded and died, and actually Egypt as well. And then it broke off into subsets that his generals broke off. Some of the Ptolemies and the Syrians were pretty much the little band of area controlling the Jews. So I'm sorry.
No, it's not fine. So basically, Jewish people they celebrated Shabbat, which is Friday night when the sun sets down. They light candles. You have a certain Jewish family dinner. You light candles. You say prayers. You're thankful for your meal. And this was a Jewish tradition. And basically, the Jews were told you either pray to these gods or these pagan gods, or you die. And so there was an outbreak against that, and the Syrians decimated this temple. They left no lights for the Jews to celebrate any of their Shabbats, any of their festivals. Apparently around there too was like Sukkot. So they were setting up for all their Jewish holidays, and basically where the 8 nights of the candle lit was because there was one jar left.
Thanks, Taylor.
And this one jar was only supposed to last for one day, and they had sent a soldier to go get more oil to light the temple. And he was gone for 8 days, and that one jar lasted that total 8 days. And that's when we get the 8 nights of Hanukkah. And that's why we celebrate, because it was a miracle. It was a miracle. This candle was lit in representation of the Jews being able to still fight for their faith, fight for, what they believe in, and that this will last longer, and they just have to persevere through it. Nice. So that's kind of just the backstory, and basically my family.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know you guys celebrate Hanukkah, but based upon your Russian background and heritage, can you explain why your family couldn't?
So my mom was born in Russia, and she came over to the United States when she was 13 years old, and while she was there, it was a Russian tradition to celebrate New Year's Eve as like the big holiday, and she wasn't allowed to celebrate Hanukkah because you could get thrown in jail. It wasn't allowed, and
so in Siberia.
Yeah, you could be sent away. And so one of the things that she incorporated for us to learn and to really appreciate, being here in America, being able to say and do what we want, which shouldn't be taken for granted, is when she was there, she celebrated this. What it was Grandpa Frost. It's very similar to Christmas. So instead, like Santa, we had a Grandpa Frost, and he didn't have a Mrs. Frost, but he had a granddaughter. And my mom said the translation of the granddaughter's name is Little Frost, or Little Snow, I'm sorry. And so they would come and they would send and give presents to all of the Russian families, and you would celebrate. And this was such a family tradition, because every morning when you wake up, you're there with your family, you're thankful for the past few years, and you wake up to try to have the new year be the best year. So that's something that we celebrated Hanukkah, and we celebrate this Russian tradition as well. And it's to throw different, our Jewish religion and our Russian culture together.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. I love when I hear your family story and how they had to go through the persecution over in Russia and Soviet Russia.
Yeah, and we went back to Russia, and my mom, for 35 years later, so she was 48 when she went back, and it was a big eye-opener. And I think especially around the holidays now, whether we think negatively or positively, it's to try to think more positively and to have a better impact on those around us, to spread the good, because there is little things to be thankful for, and if there is anything we can do to make things better, we should try to, as individuals, maybe not on the biggest impact, but just on little impacts of just trying to be good. I saw just on Facebook, I saw this whole thing of giving back. Did you read about this? There's like, someone would pay for like the coffee in line for the person behind them, or whatever the order, so that when they came up in line, it was already paid for, so then they paid for the next one. It's just a little goodness. So I thought that was really, really nice.
Yeah, I like that time of year. This time of year, everyone gets a little happier. Everyone's a little bit more giving. Everyone's a little bit kinder. I know, especially in Philadelphia. I know the Eagles aren't doing so well, so you gotta.
We won a game.
A blind squirrel finds a nut. But yeah, so I really do like your tradition, especially because my family gets Christmas, your family gets New Year's.
It works out.
Works out great, especially with traveling and everything else. So, we celebrate Christmas how you normally celebrate. Obviously, you see the tree in the background. My dad puts lights outside, put lights inside. We're traditional. My tradition, like growing up, we put white lights on the outside, color lights on the inside. I don't know if you guys do that, but that's kind of how I was raised, and what we usually did when I was growing up. We used to do midnight mass or Christmas on Christmas Day or whatever, but kind of fell out of that. Not gonna lie, not ashamed. Sorry, not sorry. However, speaking of the Christmas tree behind us, I'm gonna read a little passage out of the good book, if you will. Actually, you're part of the book. Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord. Learn not the ways of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workmen with the axe. They deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not. Sorry. They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be born, because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil. Neither also is it in them to do good. So basically, there's a bunch of different interpretations that I was reading about this passage. And oh yeah, the school plays. The school plays were awesome growing up. I love those. I did the in 8th grade. I was the narrator for the Jesus story, like the birth story, and the hark the herald angels come and all that fun stuff. So yeah, Taylor. Hey, thanks, man, for reminding me. That was great. You know, I saw a couple interpretations of this particular passage, and you know, I think it has such an American spin to some of these interpretations, and you know, I really truly think that it was a pagan tradition because, you know, looking at, you know, the Germanic tribes in Northern Europe and different things like that, that they danced around evergreen trees, and then it was a sign of fertility and a sign of everlasting life in the doldrums of winter. So they used to decorate these things, and then I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but at the same time, if you're going to be a whole full-on religious fanatic, I better not see you have a Christmas tree in your house that's decorated. That's just my personal opinion. Obviously, you can disagree. We can agree to disagree. And that leads me to another thing. And I know this is going to be the most controversial portion of the show tonight. And I just want to point this out because I saw 10 different virgin birth stories that throughout history have kind of been wrapped up into one. And Jesus is pretty much the figure that they wrapped it all up into one and packaged it all nice and neat so that it comes away and you go, oh, it's Jesus' story. Why do they all copy Jesus' story? Well, Jesus' story is kind of a copy of 10 different other gods. In particular, Buddha. They both went to the temples at the age of 12, where they are said to have astonished all with their wisdom. Buddha went into solitude for a long time, 47 days, and Jesus for 40. Both wandered to a fig tree at the conclusion of their fasts. And both were about the same age when they began their public ministry, about 30 or so years old. Another one, Krishna. Praise be to Krishna. According to the Bhagavad Purana, some believe that Krishna was born without a sexual union by mental transmission from the mind of Vasudeva. Sorry if I butchered that. In the womb of Devaki, his mother, Christ and Krishna were both called God and the Son of God. Both were sent from heaven to earth in the form of a man. Both were called Savior and the second person of the Trinity. And this is funny. Krishna's adoptive father was a carpenter. How interesting is that? So, and the spirit or ghost was their father. Krishna and Jesus were both of royal descent because, as you know, Jesus was the great-great-great-great-grandson of David, King David, who was actually the grandson or great-grandson of woman?
Sarah?
Ruth.
Okay.
Ruth. Yeah, so both were visited by wise men and shepherds, guided by a star, and angels in both cases issuing a warning that the local dictator planned to kill the baby. So the killing of the innocents. Another one, Romulus. Romulus is born of a Vestal virgin, which is a priestess of the heathen god Vesta, sworn to celibacy. His mother claims that the vine impregnated her, yet this is not believed by the king. Romulus and his brother Remus are tossed into the river and left for dead. He's hailed as the Son of God, goes to heaven in a whirlwind, just as Jesus, after he died, got taken up by a cloud in his ascension. And another thing, he was hailed as the Son of God, blah, blah, blah. And there was a great darkness that is cast over the world at his death. So when you read the Bible and the interpretation that's there, that Jesus, when he died, when he let out his last breath, and he said, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do," a dark shadow was cast over, and there was an earthquake. And this is especially one that I thought was, wow, word for word. Dionysus was born of a virgin on December 25th, and as the Holy Child was placed in a manger, he was a traveling teacher who performed miracles. He rode in a triumphal procession on an ass, which is a donkey. He was a sacred king, killed and eaten in an Eucharistic ritual for fecundity and purification. Dionysus rose from the dead on March 25th. He was a god of the vine and turned water into wine. He was called King of Kings and God of Gods. He was considered the only begotten Son, Savior, Redeemer, Sin-bearer, and Anointed One, the Alpha and Omega. He was identified with the ram or lamb, as Jesus is identified with so often. His sacrificial title of Dendrites, or Young Man of the Tree, intimates that he was hung on a tree or crucified. So that's pretty much the whole life story of Jesus.
So no, and that's what I find very, interesting is, I and this is a personal thing where I really believe if you're religious, that's great. I think if you can utilize it to be good, to look for the good, to help you through hard times, to help you through good times, to bring family together, that's wonderful. It's, and seeing these stories, that's, there's similarities there. And instead of arguing and who's right and who's this, it's, you can believe whatever you do believe. And I think that's where I get so emotionally invested and angry, and you've seen it like this, is that, I wish that we can all come together, and amongst all our differences, it makes us who we are, but come together and accept that and have it be that, there doesn't have to be hate and violence and hostility. It was one of the things that was
goodwill to men.
Was astonishing to me is when we went to Russia and we went to see where my mother grew up, to see, she came, from nothing, and she built herself, her and my grandparents, and, going 35 years to the same building, and then being called, the Jews. I mean, in a very derogatory way. That was,
Here's
the
Hanukkah.
It was, so I was so angry, and my mom was so, she put herself above that and said, it doesn't matter, we cannot succumb to then hating other people for either their ignorance or, not understanding that. And to me, that's where, I think it's easy for me to say things like this because I come from a loving family that wants to work hard and help others when we can. And I wish that for everyone. So that's why times like now.
Yeah, so don't take me pointing out all these stories in a negative fashion. I just want people
to be aware.
There's more truths out there than, just what we all know. And I really think that, I'm agnostic, so I think there's something out there, and I think every religion out there has a piece of the puzzle. And that's kind of the real motive that I think. And if we can all work together, like you had said, and just be one human species and work towards bettering ourselves and bettering the human experience or the human condition. And that's why you're going into being a PA and why I'm going into cancer research. And you just want to help your fellow man. Just do the little things. I tell my clients, hey, take the stairs or take instead of the elevator or something like that. If you do all the little things, you make the world around you a better place, and I think that's what you're getting at.
And I also like, the holidays, they're for family. Like, that's one of the things that, like,
and boosting the economy.
That my family and I love, when we get together for Passover, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. Like, I mean, there are reasons to get together and eat. I mean, anything with food, we are there. But like, it's a reason for family to get together. Yeah. And I think that's one of the most important things too, is, as we get older, it's harder to see everyone. It's harder to have that time. So I think it's, when you can,
you do it.
Value it. And eat.
Yeah, lots. and eat lots. So.
Or in my case, we need to start downtrending.
Yeah, I can't wait. I need to work out tomorrow so badly. But we're gonna have a big feast tomorrow with the family. I look forward to it. I always do. We eat turkey, and we're gonna have some ham and all the fixins and all the other stuff, some pumpkin stuff.
We
shredded up gourd with some sour cream and some paprika. Oh, it's so good.
And the other day, Dave's dad made chicken paprika. So it's, he's Hungarian, and it's very interesting to put together, not just religions, but cultural things, and share that and spread that. I mean, Dave's dad's always, you have this, let's get the recipe, let's try this. And it's awesome to get to know other people, other religions, other, different things, and unify that.
Yeah, so that's all it's all about. Just help somebody out if you can, pay it forward, and the great rule. As Jesus said, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, and I think that goes a long way. If we lived our lives by the rule that Nebuchadnezzar put forth, an eye for an eye, the whole world would be blind. So. I know, turn the other cheek, and I know it's hard, but I know a lot of great people throughout history have had similar types of messages. Buddha, Gandhi was one of them. You know, Jesus. There's a bunch of different, like MLK. You know, he was quoted as saying that he didn't go to the South to free African Americans from hatred. He went to the South to free Caucasians from the hate in their heart. And I think that's a profound statement by saying, you know, the only way that the only way that you can turn hate away or defeat hate, and Jim Jeffries said it, as profound as this is, you know, you need to beat hate with love. And love doesn't always beat hate, and that's a sad thing. But, you know, if you want to turn hearts and minds over to your side, you need to be understanding. You need to expect that you're going to get spit on, you're going to get hit, you're going to get smacked down. But overall, that if you keep going at it with logic, reason, and love, you can't lose. Eventually, the forces of hate will break. And that's pretty much all I had for tonight. You know, I just want to do a quick little special so that you guys don't miss us for the week. And I know, here, cheers.
Cheers to you. Cheers to us. Cheers to your birthday.
Yes, you're here. And we won't see you until the new year. Tune us in. January 1st, it's going to be evolution. The evolution of man, evolution throughout history, and microevolution and we'll go into a little bit of what antibiotic resistant bacteria is. And we'll actually give you the definition of what a theory is in terms of science. Not the layman's theory definition where, oh, I think this must be the case of this because I think this. No, we're going to give you the full rundown and see. That's good. We'll give you the full rundown and tell you. I know, Ariel, I'm getting old. God damn it. Love you guys. We'll give you the full rundown next week on what evolution is. Rosa, take us out.
All right. Thank you, guys. Enjoy your Christmas Eve, your holidays, and everything.